Call Don now, 682-1270. News Talk 1270 KIML.
News Talk 1270 KIML. Don Carpenter Show. Welcome back. It's 7:08. And now that we got the April Fool stuff out of the way, I do have a little bit of national stuff I want to get to. Of course, in the 8 o'clock hour, we'll visit with Scott Engel from Gillette College. She's going to stop by to talk a little bit about dyslexia. Around 8:30 or so, we'll talk with the folks from Campbell County School District's Future Business Leaders of America. And around 9:15, 9:30, we'll talk with Terry from the Chamber of Commerce along with PJ Burns. They're going to be talking a little bit today about the LeaderCast Live event coming up. And it's a bunch of really high-profile speakers coming to the area to speak. So we'll do all of that in the next couple hours. Right now, though, I did want to talk a little bit about something that was in the top of the hour news. Of course, the full court pressure is on Indiana still. Indiana, for some reason, was singled out, even though they're the 20th state to pass one of these Religious Freedom Restoration Acts. But they were singled out. And, of course, Arkansas is working on basically the same law. Arkansas's legislature did pass it. It's going to their governor, and he has said that he would sign it. So Arkansas is moving on with this, even though their largest employer, Walmart, has asked them to ask the governor to veto the bill. But it looks like they're going to sign it. It looks like they're going to stand in there. Meanwhile, Indiana has, I don't know if I would call it backtracking. What they're trying to do now is trying to get the word out that this law isn't a discrimination law. All it does is protect religious freedoms. It's Religious Freedom Restoration Act laws have never been used to deny services to gay or lesbian people. Never. I mean, generally what they are laws that protect the state from punishing companies that act upon religious conviction. Sort of just as an example. And this is not happening in any state. This is just a hypothetical example, but it's one that everybody could understand. Say a state has a law requiring restaurants to be open 7 days a week. I don't know why they would, but say there's some state that requires restaurants to be open 7 days a week. And again, this is hypothetical. Now, everyone knows Chick-fil-A. Of course, Chick-fil-A is a company that is highly identified with the evangelical Christian movement. Chick-fil-A is also they're not allowed to be open on Sundays. The franchisees are not allowed to be open on Sundays. It's a company policy. Now, say some state somewhere, we'll pick Illinois, because they're the kind of state that would do such a thing, but they also have a Religious Freedom Restoration Act law, which, by the way, the president voted for when he was in the Illinois Senate. Illinois says, well, Chick-fil-A, you have to be open 7 days a week. Here's our law. Chick-fil-A says, no, it's against our religion. They would be protected under Illinois' Religious Freedom Restoration Act. And that's what the law is for. It's not to allow business owners to discriminate. It's just to protect them from the state punishing them when they stand on religious principles. So this from the U.S. News and World Report. Indiana Governor Mike Pence said on Tuesday that he wants legislation on his desk by the end of the week to clarify that the state's new religious freedom law does not allow discrimination against gays and lesbians. Pence defended the measure as a vehicle to protect religious liberty, but he said he has been meeting with lawmakers around the clock to address concerns that it would allow businesses to deny services to gay customers. And of course, like I said, there are 19 other states that have this on the books already, and the federal government has a similar law that was signed in 1993 by Bill Clinton. This is nothing new. I'm not quite sure why the fight is now, but it is what it is. Let's take a call. News Talk 1270, you're on the air.
Don, I think that's similar to the law that Wyoming just passed. Well, that's particularly for clergy that would exempt them from having to do homosexual weddings. It's the same kind of idea, but I think Governor Mike Pence sidestepped the issue, and I think you are as well, even in your example. You can't have one without the other. If Indiana allows for a baker to refuse on his religious principles to bake a cake for a homosexual wedding, then it goes without saying the homosexuals have been discriminated against, and that's what they're going to say. I don't care what the state's stated purpose is. You can't have one. Somebody's going to be discriminated against, and I don't mind that. I'm not having a problem with that, because what the homosexual community is trying to do is not only expect people around them to accept their lifestyle, as perverted as it is, they are trying to force the people around them to accommodate their lifestyle. That's the bottom line.
And actually, Wyoming didn't pass the Religious Freedom Restoration Act this go around. It didn't.
Okay.
No, it didn't make it through the
Senate.
Yeah, the House passed it. The Senate didn't have time before they ran out of time. But I get what you're getting at here, and you're right. I mean, I wouldn't consider refusing to bake a cake discrimination, and that's. But you're right. I mean, the idea and the reason that these laws are being brought up again, originally back in the 90s when most of the laws were passed, it was for a different reason. But the reason they're being brought up again is the cake case in Colorado. That woman has been destroyed because she refused to make a cake.
Well, and the woman in Seattle, too. She's, I don't know if the judge has ruled yet, but she's going to lose everything she owns because she wasn't incorporated, of course.
Yeah.
If you're not incorporated, you lose your business, your home, everything. She refused to do a florist arrangements for a homosexual wedding.
Yeah, well, and of course the case in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, where the state threatened jail time to the owner of a wedding chapel that refused to perform the ceremony. You know, and this is why I like the Utah approach to this. I mean, they are pairing the gay and lesbian discrimination along with religious freedom in the same bill, and they're saying, look, if you're a county clerk that doesn't want to perform same-sex marriages, you have to have someone on staff that'll do it, and then I think that approach would be fair to everyone involved. But again, like you said, this really is more about attacking Christians than anything else.
Absolutely. And Rush had a good example of it yesterday. If you had 10 bakers in a row, 10 bakeries in a row, and 9 of them would do the wedding for the homosexual wedding, or the cake, they wouldn't be satisfied with that. They won't be satisfied until they force that 10th one. And what it's going to boil down to here, I think, is, are your rights and freedoms more important than my rights and freedoms? And that's where the rub is going to be. And somebody's going to have to, Stephanopoulos was trying to nail Pence down on that, saying specifically, okay, can a baker refuse to bake a cake for a homosexual wedding? And Pence would sidestep it time and time again. Nobody is willing to say, yes, that's what it means. If a Christian doesn't want to bake a cake for a homosexual wedding based on his religious views, he doesn't have to, and he doesn't have to worry about reprisal.
Right. Well, and then you could flip it even. You could flip it and say you have a baker that's gay, and you go to him and ask him, I want a wedding cake that says marriage is between one man and one woman.
Right, exactly.
Should he be able to refuse that? And of course, the answer is yes, he should be able to, because if that's against his beliefs, then he should be able to refuse. But again, the way it's going right now, he would have the right to refuse. The baker on the other side would not have the right. And that like you said, that's exactly what they want.
Well, exactly. I mean, it's a cake. For crying out loud.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. If the place you're going to doesn't care to do business with you, go someplace else. There's other places. That's the way it has worked for, a couple hundred years around here anyway.
Yeah, until I'd say 5 years ago, this was never an issue until about 5 years ago.
No, that's right, and it's going to get worse if we as Christians, if we as Christians lose this battle. It's only a matter until there's something else where pastors will be forced. Well, they will try to force a pastor to do a homosexual wedding, which is that's kind of like a black palomino, homosexual wedding. The two don't go together. Man and woman is a wedding. But anyway, thanks for taking.
It's always good hearing from you. I like hearing your approach to it, because you're pretty much spot on and everywhere. I think we have a couple calls here. One might have hung up and called back, so we'll give it a shot. News Talk 1270, you're on the air.
Good morning, Don. How's it going?
Hey, what's up?
Well, just like your other caller was saying, if we all look at it like you said, it wasn't an issue until about 5 years ago. It's because as the United States has been going, we are being destroyed. And there's more and more taken away from us. Just because if you don't want to go to McDonald's, you don't have to go there and eat. If you don't want to, you can go to other places. Just like these people can go get things done at other places. They're refusing. The lady refused to make a cake for a homosexual. Now they're coming down on her. Well, that's also infringing on her rights, because she shouldn't have to make it. Her right is she should be able to come and go as she pleases and not make a cake for someone she doesn't want to either. Just like going into a store. It says no shirt, no shoes, no service. So I'm being discriminated against because I don't wear shirt and no shoes. Everybody knows you got to be fully attired to go into a place, So it's just a breakdown of society with no morals, no values, breaking us down into to tear us apart. Is the only thing I can think of. It gets terrible every day.
Well, and you're hitting on a really good point here. I think this is a larger issue than same-sex marriages or forcing someone to make a cake. It's all about the balkanization of America. They want to split everybody up into groups. They want, white men, white women, black men, Asian women, gays, straights, Christians, atheists. They want to break everybody up into a bunch of groups and then have everyone fight, because if we're fighting each other, it's a lot easier to slip things past us.
Yep, you're exactly right. Just like with Obama and Holder, I don't believe that they're against law enforcement the way they talk and the way they do things, but their actions is to get all this turmoil going so they can declare martial law. That's what I believe. I firmly believe that they caused that turmoil by talking that stuff so they can get martial law involved instead of how it is with local law enforcement. I believe that very much so. But, everybody has their own beliefs, but I just am a firm believer that it's all kinds of stuff coming and destroying our country as a whole, as the United States.
Well,
it makes me feel sad that I have to see that.
Yeah, and you won't hear it referred to as martial law or a national police force. What they'll do is they'll have federal oversight of local police forces. That's what they'll call it. It'll be the same police officers. It'll be the same. It'll be called the New York City Police Department or the Ferguson, Missouri Police Department. But they'll be taking their they'll be forced to have standards dictated to them by the feds. That's how it'll happen. It won't be soldiers marching through the streets with tanks. It'll be the same police, but they'll have to answer to someone like Eric Holder.
Yep, Joe, you're right. Yes, that's exactly. Yeah, my grandpa told me that. He said they will take over America without firing a shot. They will control us. Communism will come in here. They won't fire a shot. They'll come in and take us over. We won't even know it. We'll wake up one day and it'll just be over. Just like they talk about the guy who doesn't smoke and the guy who does smoke in the restaurants. Well, if one guy smokes and it don't bother him, and the guy that doesn't smoke, well, it don't really bother me, because if he bans smoking, it doesn't matter because it doesn't affect me because I don't smoke. But in the fact, that does affect me because there's more rights being taken away. Whether you smoke or not, it's another right that you lose each and every day.
Yeah, well, and it's incrementalism. It's been 100 years in the making. I hate to cut you off, but there's a ton of calls. Thanks for the call. We'll just go through the line here and see what we see who we have. News Talk 1270, you're on the air.
Hello.
Hey, what's up? Sorry for the wait.
Oh, that's all right. I was enjoying the conversation. Heck. So, in my spare time, I rebuild old 40-year-old audio amplifiers just for something to do. Now, when somebody asks me, would you do this amp for me? And I say, no. I mean, what further does there have to be other than the fact that, no, I don't want to do it? Now, if that somebody has to be a Christian, and I say, no, I don't want to do that. And they ask why? Well, I don't like you. Now, if that person were gay and I said the same thing, would that open me up to another can of worms? Now, that's how bad things have gotten.
Yeah.
And the previous caller said when there's no shoes, no shirt, no service, what happened to all the little signs in the restaurant windows that used to say, we reserve the right to refuse service to anyone?
Well,
now, if somebody's being an idiot and a real, you know what, and they're a straight, normal person, I suppose you can kick them out of the restaurant. But if they're gay or lesbian or transgender, you can't kick that person out for being a whatever because they're gay? Come on, man.
Yeah, well,
are things really this bad out there?
That's what we're getting to, and you know, look, I mean, wherever you stand on the same-sex marriage issue, this is something that everyone should agree on, that we should have the right to associate with and do business with whomever we want, and we're going down a dangerous road.
Yeah, when they came out from the jobs description to that, refusing service to somebody, you're no longer an independent businessman, right? You're forced to do what the government says you must do. And when it gets that bad, we're in deep, you know what?
Yeah.
That's just all there is to it.
I get what you're going with that. Yeah. Hey, thanks a lot for the call.
You betcha.
Yeah. Okay, we'll take one more here. News Talk 1270, you're on the air.
Good morning.
Good morning. Hey, what's up?
Oh, this is Linda.
Oh, hi, Linda. How's it going?
Well, it's going. I've been listening, and I don't usually get to listen because I'm not where I can listen. But our country looks a lot like the Roman Empire. There wasn't anybody strong enough to take over the Roman Empire. It was destroyed from within. And every day we get weaker, just like the other callers have said. We get weaker. More of our basic decision-making is taken away from us. And so I think we're in big trouble in this country. I don't know. I'm not talking about any specific issue. I have a business. I have a sign that says I can refuse to sell you a car. I can refuse service to you.
But no,
I don't have to. But you know what? Yeah. Those decisions aren't based on that sign. They're based on my personal experience with you and what your past experience tells me when you talk to me, your mannerisms. If I'm wanting to finance you, for instance, I have to know some things about you. And if it doesn't work out, it's not because I don't like you or because I just can't risk that car, financing that car on someone who doesn't have a history of being able to make payments. See what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry to interrupt, but your business is a perfect example where Every day you have to refuse to do business with someone, whether it's because they don't have enough down payment or enough credit, or you just think there's something off. You think they might run off with the car and not pay for it or something like that. Your business, if you had to do business with everybody that walked through the door, you wouldn't last a week, would you?
Well, sometimes we do business with everybody that walks through the door because we believe people deserve a second chance, and that if there's an opportunity for them to, get a car and make those payments, they've got a job. There's all kinds of things that go into making a decision.
Yeah.
Now, if I had a bakery and I refused to make a cake or whatever the issue is, you know what? She has a right to feel the way she feels. How she uses her background and her decision to not do that, that's her business. And as we go through all of these changes, we could end up just like the gentleman said, and my husband reads all the time, and he tells me about what he reads, and we are really in a situation where we could be under martial law in a second. It doesn't take months or years to get to that point. It's something that can happen in a second, because all of the things to make that happen are in place right now.
Yeah, well, we can communicate instantly.
Right.
Yeah.
And you don't know who your friends are. I mean, you take a look at that Facebook page and you go to rants and raves and you check that out, and I'll tell you what, nothing's sacred.
Yeah.
Nothing is sacred. Nothing is your own personal thing. You think you have, when I was teaching, a friend of mine, a colleague, and I went to this conference where the main topic was killing the sacred cow. The big thing they were talking about is if you implement something, you have to get rid of something. And so you have to figure out what you're in control of. In your whole daily life, you're in control of 4%. Everybody else is in control of the other 96. So if you make decisions based on what you can control, you only control 4%. So look at the odds against you right there. We live in too big of a situation to say that this is not going to happen. And you're right. I heard you say about dividing everybody up. You betcha. That's the way to take down somebody. You divide up everybody. You get everybody compartmentalized, and then you say, okay, you want to be the best, you want to be the strongest, take them out. And so we will destroy from it within, not from another country coming here and trying to destroy us. We're helping them. We're doing it, and we do it every day. By not standing up and saying to the people who represent us, listen, we put our faith in you, and you're not taking care of it. And then we got the roadblock in the big office, with his pen and his phone, who is vetoing this and threatening that. You know what? What is wrong with that? That's not right. But what can we do about it? We have a Congress that if they can pull together and they can come up with this majority, they can override anything that he puts out, he vetoes, and you know what? They don't do it. So what is going on? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and I think, and I hate to be pessimistic, but I think it'll get better, but I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. We're at the point now where laws don't even have to be passed to punish people for doing, quote unquote, the wrong thing. The people will do it themselves. They'll harass employers. I mean, I've talked about it before. The woman a couple years ago got fired from her job because her kid dressed up like Trayvon Martin in blackface for Halloween. It wasn't even her. Something her kid did got her fired. So we've gotten to the point where we'll kill ourselves from the inside.
Right, and look at education. I mean, you have little kids who don't understand a thing that's going on in this country, and I mean, I did play cowboys and Indians in the neighborhood. I mean, that's what we did. We played outside. We weren't on a computer looking at who did what to whom and when and why and all of that stuff. But, if you put your finger in the gun shape, I've read articles in the news of children being expelled from school for making that, pointing like a finger and a thumb up like a gun.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we are so in the minors. We don't deal with the majors anymore. We are only in the minors, and they come in, they get all the attention, and then guess what? Boom, they're gone. It's like what Obama does with the crisis. You don't ever want to waste a good crisis. You want to make sure it's out front in the news and that you're saying all the right things, while something else is going on over here that we really need to know about, and we don't ever hear about it until after the fact, and then we're stuck with it.
Yeah, well, hey, and thanks a lot, Linda. I hate to cut you off, but
that's okay.
Yeah, you're spot on. Everything you said, exactly right. And hold on, we have Chris here, so let me. I'll get Chris's music here for him.
Chris Brintle.
Okay, so you heard most of that. We're talking about these Religious Freedom Restoration Act laws that are going into effect. And this is something I just touched on a minute ago. We're at the point now where the government doesn't even have to come after us for doing something that's not politically correct. People will do it for them. I'll just give you an example. I saw this story about this woman. She's a stand-up comic. She's having a feud with another stand-up comic. That's pretty normal, right?
Right.
Okay, so she's a one-armed, overweight, lesbian stand-up comic, and that's how she identifies herself. I'm not saying anything that she doesn't say about herself. In fact, that's how anything she does, she starts off by saying, I'm one-armed, I'm overweight, I'm lesbian, which, she's wearing a shirt that says I'm a lesbian. She has one arm.
There's no secret.
Yeah, and then she's overweight. So she gets into a feud with this other comic. He makes some bad jokes about her, which is what stand-up comics do. I mean,
right.
This guy's pretty crude. I mean, he's a crude comic. So she starts going after him and trying to get him fired from gigs. She goes to all of these social justice blogs complaining. She starts a fund where people can donate to her, because that's the first thing anytime you're victimized now by someone, by hurtful words, that's the first thing you do. You start collecting funds from people. I don't know why. She's a working comic. Apparently she gets gigs at pretty decent clubs. I don't know why. I watched some of her comedy. It's not funny. Meanwhile, funny thing is, now this guy makes fun of her for being overweight and having one arm. I can't even remember what the exact joke was, but it was your typical fat joke. I mean, it really wasn't funny. Meanwhile, she's able to make fun of men for body issues. And that's her entire act, is making fun of men for body issues. Now, apparently she can do this because she's a member of a selected class that has special status, has special victim status, even though she makes a good living. And I fail to see where the victimhood is. But apparently, just because she lost her arm in a car accident, by the way. So it was, she wasn't born with one arm. I was having a discussion with someone over this, and turns out they were Canadian. And this Canadian person wanted the male comic, the mean, and it was in poor taste. The joke was in poor taste, and it was mean-spirited. But again, it's stand-up comedy.
Right.
Stand-up comedy is often mean-spirited.
It should always be protected, too.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. This Canadian person asked me, well, shouldn't hate speech be banned? I was like, no. First off, I don't accept that there's such a thing as hate speech. There can be hateful speech.
Mm-hmm.
but hate speech is a legal term, and for some reason, hate speech only applies to certain people. Only people of a minority of some sort can be victims, quote unquote, of hate speech. So first off, I don't believe in the concept of hate speech.
I don't either. I don't understand. I think my argument for that is very simple. What you asked me, what I consider hate speech, and then I asked that lady from Canada who thinks hate speech is unacceptable and shouldn't be protected by the First Amendment, what she thinks hate speech is, we might have different answers. Yeah. My question really, besides hate speech, but my question to everything, just about when I talk about politics, is who decides?
Yeah.
Because hate speech might be different in 20 years. Hate speech in 20 years might mean you're pro-life. Hate speech in 20 years might mean that you're for or against gay marriage. Hate speech in 20 years might mean something completely different. And once you start getting into that, now you're getting into the thought police. And that's not what this country is based upon. And that's a scary thing, because who's going to decide? I'll tell you, your government.
Yeah.
Your rogue government will decide what hate speech is, and they won't protect it. So that kind of thought process to me is dangerous.
Well, now, and I'm glad you brought that up. Who decides? Obviously, the government would make the final decision, but they would make that decision based upon all of these special interest groups that they've broken apart. We're no longer Americans. We're not hashtag, but hyphen Americans.
Right.
Whatever it is, one-armed American, fat American like me, bald American. There's always a hyphen in front of everything now, and we're all fighting each other. And the groups that yell the loudest will be the ones that get to decide what hate speech is. And it's already considered hate speech to be pro-life or be pro-traditional marriage. I mean, it's already considered hate speech in some places. So, and I said there's no. I consider nothing hate speech. Everything should be allowed as long as it's not a imminent call to violence,
right?
The fire in a theater type thing.
There are specific laws that protect where your First Amendment isn't protected. If someone was out in Gillette and they said openly, we need to go harm
such and such,
or a political figure here in Gillette right now, those people, that's not protected because that's considered a threat, and so that's not protected speech. But as far as everything else, like, it has to be narrowly tailored, and it goes through almost a roadmap of if it's going to be protected or not.
Right.
And they have to prove it. I mean, it's hard for a government to prove that, and it should be extremely hard to prove that something shouldn't be protected by the First Amendment.
So as a country, it would be almost impossible to have hate speech laws unless the Supreme Court got taken over, which is a distinct possibility. But the court we have right now, we wouldn't be able to get hate speech laws, which the response from this Canadian person was, well, this is why the United States isn't respected, because you don't stand up for minorities. Now, stop treating this like it's Rosa Parks. It's a comedian that got made fun of by another comedian.
Yeah.
Or just to go back to the example I started the hour with, it's a couple that couldn't get a wedding cake. They're not Rosa Parks. They're not Martin Luther King.
Exactly.
They're not Emmett Till. They're people that couldn't get a cake, or they're a stand-up comic that should have thick enough skin to be able to take a joke from another stand-up comic.
And you know what helps minorities? The marketplace of ideas, of free speech, where they're free to say whatever they want to help whoever community you're talking about, whether you're talking about African Americans, Mexican, anybody. That's what helps. You know what helps minorities? A free market.
Yeah, that
kind of stuff is what helps minorities, not victimization, not being a victim for everything, not government help.
Yeah. Well, just to use the commonly used example when it comes to the wedding cake. If a black couple walked into a cake maker and the cake maker refused to make a cake for them, that's the example that's given always. That guy would be out of business in a week. Nobody would go there.
Yeah, with you wouldn't need a law.
Yeah, no decent people would patronize that place. I mean, I know I wouldn't if they discriminated on the basis of race. I wouldn't go there, and the market would take care of it.
The market would take care of it. Those people could go tweet about it. Yeah. They could put a message on Facebook, and that's fine. Do that because that'd be wrong and discriminatory. You do that kind of stuff, and then what would happen? They could even pick it. They could even pick it outside, saying, "Hey, this owner's racist." Yeah. I'm perfectly fine with all that, and that would be justice, really. And yeah, you're right. But eventually, that's the type of stuff that takes care of it. You don't need government intervention to take care of it, and you also don't need to take away business owners' rights to take care of it.
But again, it's not about the right of somebody to get a cake. It's about punishing people that disagree with the prevailing thought these days. So what do we have going on in sports?
Oh, yeah, we have Wyoming spring football and also NBA news.
Okay, sounds good. And I have a guest next hour, so we'll see you tomorrow. News Talk 1270 KIML.
Listen every Tuesday for coverage of the Pronghorns, Wild, Camels, Cowboys, and pro sports. The Tuesday Morning Quarterbacks Hour. Don Carpenter on News Talk 1270 KIML. ML.